Hi, so today I just want to make a quick beat on one of my samplers, and today I'm grabbing the Roland SP-404A. Some of you have asked me to make a video on this one for a while now, and today I think it's about time to do it. Just a quick little beat making video of me talking a little bit about how I'm using it and what I do. Accurate beats. Now, before we get into it, I just want to say that this sampler isn't really comparable to Maschine or the MPC Live that I normally use. This is a completely standalone sampler that can be used on batteries with inputs and outputs and an SD card. There's basically two different ways to use it when it comes to sequencing music. A lot of people are using the resampling function on the SP-404 for their sequences, which means that they play something and resample that, and then they resample something on top of that, on top of that, and on top of that. That way the workflow is kind of unlimited. However, that's not how I use it. I've never really gotten comfortable with the resampling function in the 404, so instead I'm using the sequencer that's built in. And the huge limitation here is that I'm limited when it comes to polyphony, which means I can't play too many sounds at the same time. Which for me just means that I have to plan out my track a little bit more and make some of my drum sounds mono instead of stereo, so it's not a big thing. But on the other hand, my creativity kind of gets boosted by having limitations like that. And with this one I have to think a lot more simple than I think when I'm using Maschine or the MPC Live. So let's keep it simple and get a sample into the SP-404 together with some drums and see what I can come up with. Let's go! And here we are. Now, first I do have a couple of samples loaded up into my 404, just some basic drums, a kick, snare, and a hi-hat. The rest of this bank is completely empty to fit my sample. So let's go into record mode and turn off stereo and recording on the first one. Start the sample and then press record. Let's just stop it there. So I didn't really get the start there, so let's go to sample edit and edit the start point. A bit more. That's too much. So that's a lot better. Now I want to chop up the sample, so I have two different options. One is to resample it into another pad and adjust it from there, and the other one is to copy the entire thing from one pad to another and then edit it. But before we do that, let's try to change the pitch of the sample. And that's where the first problem with the SP-404 comes into play. This doesn't really have a good pitch function at all. There is one built-in effect called pitch and another one called chromatic pitch. So for this I'm going to try to use the chromatic pitch, number 20. Which is really weird. If I set it to C, it sounds kind of alright again. But if I do that, it kind of pitches like parts of the sound, but it still gets mixed with, I don't know, it's hard to describe and it doesn't sound really good. So what I normally do instead is that I keep both of them at C, then I change both of them at the same time to something else. A lot better, but if I do that too much, it just introduces a lot of different artifacts and weird stuff in the sound, so be careful. So the original and my pitched version. Now, in order to keep that effect on the entire sample, I just have to resample it to another pad. So that's done. And let's set some start and end points. And adjust it. Copy it over here one more time. I want to have that big chord change saved, so let's copy it over to another pad and set a marker right where I want it. and adjust it. That one as well, so let's copy it. Now for this slice right here, I want it to start there, on the second note. So in order to move the start point that far, I have to go here, sample edit, start and level, so that's the start, and move the start point. Doesn't really do it, so I'm gonna go once again and go back from the top to something else, like 28, and then back to 30. One more time. One more time. And from here it's way easier to get it exactly where I want. So one more slice. I think I want that big change as well. So let's just hope that's the last thing I want. So now I have a bunch of different slices and I should be able to start working on something. So now it's time to start thinking about how to combine these two things, the drums and the strings. Maybe I could do something like this. But I'm not sure. Let's take it easy and start with the drums first. So I'm going into the pattern sequencer, which is completely empty, so that's nice. I'm picking the first pattern here, and my BPM is set to 92. My length to 4 bars, which is also good, and my metronome should be on a little bit. So let's start recording the drums right now. I messed that up, so let's delete that pattern and try again. I think that's good enough. Let's listen to it again without a metronome. Well, it's nice and simple, a little bit sloppy and not quantized, exactly how I like it. So let's try to see if we can play some of the string sounds on top of the loop. Now I'm realizing I'm never using this because I really don't like how that sounds, so let's delete that and copy this one over here. So I have 2 versions of it. Let's take this one and hit reverse. And I want to edit the endpoint of it, which becomes the start point in this case. So let's try to use it inside the pattern. So that sounds kind of nice to my ears. Now I just need to lower the tempo of the drums just a little bit. So let's go into the pattern sequencer and just go to the time setting and turn it down to something like 88. And that's also one thing that you can't do if you're using the resample functionality for your sequences. So that's good to know. Now let's record a pattern here with the strings on top of the drums. Well, now I'm not super happy about that. I recorded the chops on top of the drums and I want to change how it plays. And now I can't really do that. So what I should have done was to copy the drum loop over to another sequence. Then I could make my mistakes on this one and still have another one to recall. And now I don't, so I have to record my drums one more time. But that's definitely not the end of the world, so let's just give it another go with the drums. Yeah, that's definitely just as good as the other one. Now what I want to do here is to copy this sequence over to another pad. Let's do it twice just because. So let's give it another try and record the sample on top of the drums on my first pattern. Well, yeah, I said we were gonna keep it simple, so I'm just keeping it simple. And I do have an idea for my secondary pattern here on number 2, so let's give it a try and see if I can record it on my first try. So now I have 2 different patterns, one right here and one over here. Now I also have the drums on the third one. Before I go ahead and do anything else, I just want to copy these ones over to new patterns as well, so I have duplicates of them if I mess anything up. So let's copy that one over there, copy that one over there, copy that one over there. So now I have some duplicates, which feels safer. Now I feel like I need to add something more here. We just have a sample and some drums right now. So let's add a bass line, and in order to do that I need to find the root notes. So I'm going to use my trusty OP1 for that. Take one of the sounds here. So there we have it. Let's listen to the loop and see if I can find some notes that goes along with it. So it sounds a bit weird right now, but I do think I have the basic notes to go together with the sample. So let's switch to a bass sound. So I think that's kind of the right notes for the bass line of this track. But in order to be able to sequence it on the 404, I need the notes to go in there. So I have to sample them into the 404 from the OP1. So let's do that. Let's go to another bank here and go to the first pad and sample the first note. Adjust the start point a little bit. So let's do the same thing for note number 2, note number 3. That should be the last one. So 5 notes, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And since I made the duplicate versions of the different patterns, I can record this without having to do everything all over again from the beginning, so that's good. So let's try to record the bass line. Well, it's definitely a bass line. And I also have another pattern here, and I'm only using the same chops, but differently, so the same notes should absolutely be good enough. And again, less is more, simplicity is the key here. I think I'm kind of happy with this so far. Let's see if I can go crazy here and actually play something on the OP1. Well, no. Again, there's a difference between what I could do and what I should do. And, well, to be honest, I really don't feel like adding anything more to this track. And even though I love the SP-404 and I think it's amazing in a lot of different ways, it still takes a lot of time to chop up a sample and sequence stuff and make it sound the way you want it to. And in this case, I got a chopped up sample, some drums, and a bass line together, and that's good enough for now, I think. And I'm 100% sure that I would have another track here if I was doing this beat with the same sample and the same drums, but on Maschine or the MPC Live instead. That's just how it works to work on the SP-404. It's different, and it's unique, and it's great, but it's different. Both good and bad. And it's also running pretty late right now, so let's just put some scratch on top of this track and call it a day. Thanks a lot for watching this video and all the support I get on the channel. Don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe and all that. I hope to see you guys in the next one. Ha det gott!
Let's go. Listen right quick. Listen right quick. The more you bring it, the more we gon' bring it, 'cause we ain't never scared.
Accurate, super exclusive live internet mega show.
Every Sunday on YouTube, 9:30 p.m. Central European Time.